Hi, I'm Laura Riley. I'm a member of Inverclydebuzz and I'm the project manager for the Belleville Biodiversity Garden, and I also help to design the garden as well. The planning for this biodiversity garden started about a year and a half ago, so really it's been quite quickly in development. So it started a meeting with, I'm a beekeeper, so it started a meeting of us beekeepers together, and we looked at our constitution and we found that actually we weren't doing anything to promote the health and well-being of bees in general, which is something that we should be doing. So we started to look for patches of derelict and vacant land near to us, in the hope that we could develop either with wildflowers or rewilding or just trying to preserve and promote what was there. And this site was offered to us by Riverclyde Homes, and so we started to plan and design something that would reflect the heritage of the site, but also would be a very cost-effective way of creating a biodiversity garden and to teach people about elements of biodiversity they could use in their own gardens really easily. We also work really closely with Belleville Community Garden, and their volunteers and their Monday Gardening Club help us to keep the garden clear of litter and things like that, and also they do the yearly cut for us, and take away all the risings from the grass. And we're trying to recycle materials as well, so that we're not actually making a carbon cost on the environment by developing the garden. Promoting pollinators locally, and also seeing the rise in the number of pollinators, particularly bumblebees, and things like the common carder and buff-tailed bumblebee. We've seen an increased number of in the garden. So if people are looking for any tips from us, if they wanted to start a site like this for themselves, I suppose it's firstly look at the site that you've got. Often charities that work locally, like Bug Life or your local conservation officer at the council, will be able to help as a good starter. Then once you've decided what you need to do, often teaming up, councils often have environmental networks, and we've got a lot out of our local council environmental network, working in partnership together. Often development agencies have lots of projects that they need people who are there to work on a voluntary or also paid basis, and so you're providing a project that they could possibly work on, which is absolutely a win-win situation for both parties. So you can get the plans and you can get the staffing or the volunteers to be involved, and then you just have to publicise it within your local community so people know what's going on. And we found just looking at the different elements of biodiversity is a good start. So things like piles of logs, or dry stones, or soil mounds for overwintering bumblebees, all these different elements of biodiversity which are on the SNH website. You can use those as a starter for 10. So now we've come to a different site that's in a different part of Greenock, still the east end of Greenock, but a bit higher up now. This is Blairmore Crescent, which is an old landfill site, though the site was suggested to us by the council as an area where it's mostly closely cropped grass. So what we decided to do was look at the areas under the trees to try and make a sort of bee and butterfly glade. So to make a few glades, scraping back only a tiny bit of soil, and because it's contaminated land, we had to work really closely with the contaminated land officer just to make sure we didn't actually remove any of the material from the site, which was really tricky. So we sowed different mixes from Scotia seeds, again trying to be aware of sort of native species, and I'm pleased we sowed different mixes because they came up at different rates. So last year a completely different mix came up to this year different flowers, and it's great to see that. So I'm most pleased with this site are the numbers of the increase in pollinators that we've had visiting the flowers here. I mean, just walking along here today, we've seen a whole variety of bumblebees from your common carder, all sorts of beetles and hoverflies, and if you compare that to just literally a metre across and look at what's not happening on the closely cropped mown grass, it just shows you that just a small amount of sort of wildflowers can make a huge difference for forage for pollinators. So we've really enjoyed working with the local community on this project to sort of raise the profile of pollinators to people who probably haven't thought of that sort of thing before. We don't need to have all the site, people can still use it uninterrupted, but also enjoy the lovely flowers that we've managed to grow here.